Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. Thanks for joining us at our new time. It's been nearly 8 months since Detroit emerged from bankruptcy and began its real rebirth. However, there's concern over the declining number of black-owned businesses taking part in that comeback. Some longtime minority business owners say they're being forced out of downtown and midtown through evictions and foreclosures. Detroit City Councilwoman Mary Sheffield has issued a resolution calling for policies that promote the inclusion of small minority businesses in Detroit's revitalization. Joining me now to talk about it is Councilmember Sheffield, along with Darnell Small, who's the owner of the Tangerine Lounge, and Eric Williams, who's the director of the Wayne State Law Center. Welcome to American Black Journal.
Thank you for having us on.
Councilwoman, I want to start with you and your resolution.
Yes.
What does it say, and what do you think it might accomplish?
So, as I stated before, Council speaks the resolution, and we've talked a lot about the lack of minority businesses within the city of Detroit as we begin the revitalization of the city. So I thought it was important for us to speak the resolution and let the administration know that this is an issue that we're serious about and that we can no longer be quiet on. And it really speaks to the need for more policies and initiatives and programs that would directly address the fact that minority businesses in the city are being pushed out. And so we see a lot of programs that are attracting investment in the city to attract businesses in Detroit, but not really programs and initiatives and programs to help retain existing businesses in the city of Detroit. So we need to call on more intentional policies that directly impact existing minority business here in the city of Detroit.
I'm going to ask you this just straight out. How much of this is about a market that is getting more expensive to do business in, and how much of it is just about race?
I think that it's a little bit, I don't want to put the race card in it, but I think that there is market force. Right. there is market forces, and their people are beginning to capitalize on the rebound of this city. And the fact that some existing businesses in the city cannot afford to pay the rent. But how do we as a city begin to assist these businesses, making sure that they have access to capital, making sure there's loans available, making sure we have programs in place to help these long-term businesses who've endured through the good and the bad in this city.
Right.
And so we have to come together.
They stuck it out even
when
it was tough to be here.
Yes, and I think that we have to make sure we're able to come together as one and create those type of programs to help those businesses move forward.
Darnell, yours is one of the businesses that faces new challenges about where you are and whether you can stay there. Tell me just quickly what's going on and what you think is behind it.
Councilwoman just hit a home run. Everything she said, she just stole it right out of my head.
That's right, you got nothing else?
First of all, I am gone. It's not facing the challenge. It has happened.
It happened, right.
And I know people discuss, the expensiveness, of the city, but my situation was, I guess I was surviving even though it was getting expensive, and I saw the opportunities coming to the city and was waiting. I just never had the opportunity to endure some of the great opportunities, as far as new people opening business, qualifying for certain loans and things. But what's important is, it is business if a person wants to go up on the rent as long as the lease is over. But people capitalizing, as Councilwoman is saying, I mean, you can go up on the rent. If you're paying $4,000 a month and they want to go up to $40,000 when the lease is over, that's fine, that's business.
Right.
But trying to gain very quickly.
What happened to you happened outside the terms of
Right, yeah, because we had 7 years it started, we had 7 years left on the lease, and but the thing is, we're out, Stephen. They just couldn't wait till the lease was over, or didn't want to pay us out to get out. You want to pay to get somebody out so you can make progress, fine.
Yeah.
So,
did you feel like some of it was about them not wanting your business or the type of business yours was in that spot as much as it was about money?
I think it was both. For one, they want to move their business. They're in the same business. They have a brewery. It's Atwater Brewery. They were there before us,
right.
And it used to be a old owner.
Right.
So when they came back and brought the building, they want to move back, which is nothing wrong with that, but just pay the person to move on. All these leases, you wouldn't hear all these people complaining. They're literally getting displaced, illegally,
right.
And what I'm working on is to make sure it never happens to me, but to anybody else. Everybody says move on. I am working on some things to try to be placed. I want to be a success story in Detroit. I was here before. If it wasn't for people like me, the great things that are being going on in the city, you wouldn't have the Dan Gilbert or the Illages. We sustained the city in our small part.
And nobody else was interested.
It's just like if everybody, you have tenants in Bedrock. I think it's great. They are full But if all those tenants just left, you know, that's a problem, you know, and you can come after somebody who leaves, so it should work both ways. So I want to have my success story. I'm working on something right now. It's hard. I have been displaced, you know, you can't count me out. But I want to make sure I'm not right back here at the table,
You
and
don't
the
wanna
other table
just
to
go
happen
away.
again, or anybody else. You know, we just want to make sure it's an even playing field as well.
Right. Eric, I know that you have started a program to try to help small businesses, minority and otherwise, just sort of deal with the challenges of being a small business in the city, get started and grow. That's really, it's still very, very tough to do that.
No, it certainly is. And part of the problem is, of course, capitalization. So
Right.
small businesses in the city face real capitalization problems, in part because if you're starting a small business, your biggest asset that you're going to use as collateral is your home. And so, of course, when you're comparing businesses started by people who live in the city versus people who live outside in the suburbs,
Got real disparities.
yeah, there's a real disparity. So the suburban small businesses automatically have an advantage.
They have
That's the
access to
problem.
more capital.
Right, simply by virtue of living outside the city, right? Nothing else. The other problem, of course, is that if you're living in a community where you don't have a lot of people in your immediate circle who are, you know, lawyers, who are accountants, who have previously run a business, who are familiar with how zoning and permitting operate, you don't have that informal network, and you may not be aware of the formal network that would actually help you avoid making a lot of the committing a lot of the mistakes
Right.
that ultimately undermine a lot of small businesses.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you're going to change that, then you actually have to have policies in place to do that. You just simply can't talk about it.
Right. I want to ask this question of all three of you. What could African American businesses have done while there was no one else in the city, which was true for a long time? Everyone else sort of abandoned us. What things could have been different that would have made it more secure for black businesses to stay? We hear about ownership, right? If you own the building you're in, then you're not dealing with somebody who's jacking up the rent or cutting you short on a lease. If the city is more focused on sustaining black businesses in general, they're in better shape so that when other businesses come in. What mistakes did we make inside the community that maybe we ought to correct now?
Before I just want to say, I understand the ownership thing, but I'd like to address that right off the bat.
Sure.
Because when people talk about black businesses wouldn't have been in this position if they owned the building, what you're saying is, you should have made what everyone else considered to be a really bad investment at that time.
Right.
And
Nobody
if you had
else
done
wanted
that,
those buildings.
you'd be fine now. And that's absurd.
That's an
That's
interesting-
just a non-starter as an argument. And you hear it time and time again, but I just think it's a
So that
non-starter.
was not a reasonable solution back then. is
No,
your
it certainly wasn't. So.
And it was hard to get closings in Detroit, to get people to finance people, you know, small
To get-
businesses.
again, that
They're
access of
considered high
capital.
risk, or Detroit was a high risk, you know. So, I mean, a lot of people who doing these great things, I mean, that's fine. I'm not here to stop progress, but you got to realize they got great opportunities by getting
Right.
the buildings for cheap, because I guess maybe they can rehab them. But as he says, I get tired of hearing you should own. So America was built on contracts. In my situation, I'm not trying to drive it down the thing. I've never missed a month's rent. I've never been late. I was still removed, and then when I was illegally removed, I was awarded the property back, but in theory, but I didn't have my keys for a couple weeks, so it's called a force out. So it's not about, yeah, you should own. I am trying to own as I move forward, but you know, and then those are other opportunities, as he said. It's not easy to say in Detroit somebody's going to finance this, or you know, for this price. But if you're paying a lease, that lease, you're obligated to it. You can't break that lease, but it should work both ways.
Yeah.
And so I would just touch on
go
it
ahead.
and just say that in general, I think local businesses, if they had been better at strategic planning and really looking at long term, because we know that Detroit was in a situation that it was in only for a short amount of time,
Sure.
and that we were going to eventually rebound. And so that they needed to probably plan a little bit better for this revitalization that we're in, but then also make sure that we're holding our local government accountable.
Well, see, that's
and
what I was
making sure that there
gonna-
are intentional, again, policies that are directly helping them for the rebound and revitalization revitalization of this city.
How agile can city government even be, though, with restrictions like Prop 2, the constitutional amendment that says you can't consider race in any sort of government policies? What can city government do to try to help Black businesses?
And I'm thinking right now, we have any ideas, we have all of these different programs that are being brought to us right now at council table, but again, they are only for how do we attract businesses into the city. There is not a program that has been put before me that says this is for how we can
To
help
shore
existing
up,
businesses that have been here. And we need to have an intentional, again, program or policy or initiatives in place that it says this is for existing minority business to support them in sustaining the city of Detroit.
What does the
economy of
Duggan
city.
administration say when you talk to them about it?
They believe that some of the programs that are in place are helping businesses, but again, that's an argument that can be made.
Yeah.
And just really quick on that point, I'm hoping that those conversations we can begin to have now with this resolution and moving forward. We can't talk around it anymore.
Right.
We need to really
Deal with it for what it
directly.
is,
Yes.
sure.
And us as business, I'm not of an organization. I am part of the businesses, you know, the everyday.
Right.
So if you want to call that an organization, we appreciate the council taking the position that they're taking because it can't keep being overlooked.
Right.
And again, we're not saying, these people are coming in the city. We're fine with that. We just want to be elevated. We want to elevate too. That's all it needs
And
to be.
that's the challenge.
We want
that
the
whole
same
city
opportunities.
faces.
We want to grow. We want to make people proud of us too. And we've been here knowing, hey, it's gonna come back. Believe in it. When people abandon it, we
But don't
believe
lock
in it.
us out.
Yeah, and we believed in it before all these things had happened. We just hang in there. We tell each other, hey, come to Detroit. You know, everybody goes to the other counties like Somerset, you know, and Troy and Birmingham, but we believe in Detroit.
Stay
So
in
we
Detroit,
just, as Councilwoman said, we just felt that we should be elevated at the same time as
I
them.
wish we could talk about this for 21 minutes,
know.
but of course, we only have 30 minutes in the show, so we're out of time. Thank you all for being
Thank you,
here.
Stephen.
For having us.